public interest. I am Malika Ramsey. Thanks for joining us. Again with me this week is leader of the People's National Congress Reform and leader of the opposition, Mr. David Granger. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Malika.
This week we talk 50 years. 50 years for the University of Guyana, and of course Mr. Granger will tell you his thoughts on what should happen, what is currently happening as the University of Guyana celebrates 50 years in existence. Mr. Granger, let's jump right into it. We have not been hearing much, and I don't know if this is because you're a historian. Of course, I call you a historian. Most persons call you a historian. We've not been hearing much about the 50 year anniversary of the University of Guyana. Should we not be proud to be celebrating, 50 years of Guyana's most significant tertiary institution?
I agree, we should be very proud. I'm personally very proud because when I was a young person, I actually started attending the University of Guyana. At that time, it was still housed at the Queen's College compound, so you can guess how long that was. That was before independence, because we only got the campus at Turkine as an independence gift. It was a sugar plantation, and there are actually photographs with the Prime Minister at that time, Forbes Burnham, in Independence Week in May 1966, taking over this field on the thatch roof building and actually operating a bulldozer because there was nothing there. And it was Forbes Burnham and the People's National Congress which built the campus that we now have. As I said, I started going to the University of Guyana, started attending the University of Guyana as an undergraduate when it was still housed in Queen's College. So, in fact, I left Queen's College 1 year in the class, so I went back in the same class through the next year as a university undergraduate. So I'm very emotional because the University of Guyana has attracted a lot of critical comment over the years, and at one stage there was some doubt as to whether we should have a national university at all, or whether we should do like the other Caribbean countries, the Anglophone Caribbean countries, particularly Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago, and have one university, that is the University of the West Indies. And if you went to one of those campuses, you will see that they're very different from Turkine. I think all three campuses, Cave Hill in Barbados, St. Augustine in Trinidad, and Mona in Jamaica, are way ahead. And I think that they might have something to celebrate, but Guyana decided to go for a national university, but we have to do a lot more. So as I said, we need to celebrate, but we need to pay close attention to what has gone wrong and bring the University of Guyana up to the standard of St. Augustine, Mona, and Cave Hill, and of course other universities further afield.
What is the purpose of the University of Guyana, and after 50 years, is it or has it fulfilled that purpose?
We are now in a new millennium. The university was established 50 years ago, and I think in anticipation of independence, some countries normally feel they must have a national stadium, national airline, national army, a national university. But it is more than ornamental, it is more than decorative. It is essential in producing the quality of manpower which an independent country needs to develop. Where are we going to get the engineers to build the roads and bridges in the hinterland? Where are we going to get the teachers in our schools? Where are we going to get the scientists? Where are we going to get the managers, businessmen, the entrepreneurs, people who go into the forest, people who control the water in this very complicated country, where you have drainage and irrigation, sea defense problems all the time. These people can only come to us through a tertiary institute. They can't come from primary education, they can't come from secondary education. You need a tertiary level to give people the quality education needed to develop the country. And I think we took a decision, some people will still debate whether it's a correct decision, to separate ourselves from the University of the West Indies. And we felt that we had certain problems in Guyana which the other Caribbean countries did not have and did not provide answers for. For example, there's no real forested country in the Anglophone Caribbean except Belize. No other Caribbean country has our problems of drainage and irrigation, rice production, sugar production. You would be surprised that the types of soils that we have in Guyana are not present anywhere else in the Anglophone Caribbean. And cultivating sugar on our soils requires a completely different, it requires different equipment, it requires different management. And some of these arguments were used to justify having a separate university which could pay attention to Guyana's developmental needs. So we needed the university because we needed to develop. And we made a decision, and for better or for worse, we now have a national university. The question is now, is it fulfilling the role it was meant to fulfill? That is producing quality manpower to help to administer, govern, develop this country.
Do you still, knowing that, yes, that we are in modern day, to use the term that everyone uses, we are in modern day, this is 2013, and we still have these problems, these infrastructural problems. Do you still believe or agree that UG has done well being separated from those other Caribbean tertiary institutions that you would have mentioned? Would you, if you were given a chance to go back, would you say that we should be linked to those? They should be our sisters.
It's very tempting for me to say one thing or the other. Having myself graduated from St. Augustine, Trinidad and Tobago, and from University of Guyana, I think it's quite clear in my mind, my academic experience, that the facilities at the University of West Indies at St. Augustine are superior. There's no doubt about it. I'm not being anti-national, I'm not being anti-patriotic. It is a fact. In fact, a lot of what I've written in terms of national defense and security was researched in the libraries of St. Augustine. I studied in international relations, and there was a huge library, at St. Augustine. When I came back here, there was one small shelf. It was really, the difference is really vast. There's no comparison. The problem is that we have not been making sufficient effort to close the gap. I'm not here to tell lies about the University of Guyana and say it is excellent. We know where we are, the academics know where they are, the students know where they are, and the workers know where they are. And we need to move forward. That is the problem. Not being poor, but making that poverty an excuse for underdevelopment. Last year I met with the University of Guyana Student Society, I met with the University of Guyana Senior Staff Association, I met with the University of Guyana Workers Union, and discussed their problems, because they went on strike, trying to call attention to the issues. We actually, that is APNU, actually took a petition before the National Assembly. I brought this to the attention of the government, that we have a crisis there, and this needed to be solved. Now we have a new Vice Chancellor. He is making efforts, and we are supporting his efforts to improve the quality of the University of Guyana. But the problems have not yet been solved, and the government seems reluctant after 20 years to put enough resources into solving the problems of the University of Guyana. You cannot have a cheapo approach to academic education and expect to get quality results. So a lot of the problems Guyana faces in terms of infrastructural development, the problems with our roads, the problems of bridges, the problems of sea defense, the problems with agriculture, I regard as being problems of our tertiary education system, because our government has not put the finance into the university to produce the quality people who can resolve those problems. Some time ago I went to Matthews Ridge, which, as you know, is the scene or the site of our manganese mining in Guyana. It was abandoned several years ago by another company. You need manganese to produce steel. and everywhere in the world, all the steel producers need manganese. And I went up there, a new company is attempting to resuscitate manganese production. And I was introduced to the senior staff. Oh, so-and-so is from Sri Lanka, so-and-so is from Suriname. Oh, this one's from Canada, this one's from Ghana, this one's from Trinidad and Tobago. There are no top Guyanese scientists. I think there may be one Guyanese geologist. But we had to import talent from all those countries because we do not have that talent coming out of the University of Guyana. In addition to that, samples of soil, you can imagine the weight, samples of soil had to be taken in different parts of the area where mining was being anticipated. They had to be sent overseas to be tested at great expense. So they should have had a laboratory staffed by Guyanese technicians analyzing the soil samples and determining which areas need to be mined and so on. They have to be sent overseas to be tested. I mean, what we've seen, therefore, is that educationally, academically, technologically, Guyana is either standing still or moving backwards. Capabilities which we had maybe 40 or 50 years ago are no longer there. This is where the University of Guyana comes in, because we should be training an education, what they call an education nation, a nation that is committed to certain educational values, because that's the only way the country could be developed. And it is not doing that. The University of Guyana is not doing that because it is under-resourced. The PPP civic administration simply is not giving the University of Guyana the funds that it needs to produce quality graduates. And I would say that right now the University of Guyana is on life support. It's on a drip. It's not getting worse, but it's certainly not getting better.
So would it be fair to say that David Granger joins a number of persons who believe that the current state of the University of Guyana is as a result of politicking or politics? Would it be fair to make such a statement?
It's quite fair. It is the result of political neglect. It's not politicking. I'm not sure. Perhaps I agree with you too quickly when you use the word. It's a tricky word.
Okay.
But it is not because of any clash or conflict between APNU and PPPC. It is because of the political mindset of the PPP, which is starving the university of sufficient funds. So I wouldn't say politicking, I would say it's an absence of a developmental approach to the University of Guyana. We, in a Partnership for National Unity, support better funding, better resources for the university. We have actually brought a petition, as I said, before the National Assembly. And we support the Staff Association, we support the Student Society, we support the Workers' Union. If you speak to those people, they've been on strike. And every now and then, up to the last month, if not this month, they had to threaten strike action because of non-payment of salaries, If you spoke with those three organizations on campus, you will see that most of the problems result from neglect. It isn't because they're asking for some fantastic financial allocation. It is because the government simply doesn't care. And in fact, there's evidence that about 2 of the chancellors simply walked off the job. They got fed up trying to speak to this PPP civic government and getting nowhere. They just abandoned the positions. I think Professor Calestis Juma was one. I think Professor Bertie Ramcharan was another. In fact, Professor Ramcharan complained that when he was chancellor is not a full-time job, but it's more than ceremonial. He would come here like once a year, or whenever he went to campus. Lecturers and students would approach him for chairs for the classrooms. It was as bad as that. It could be very, very backward, there at the campus. And he would, he's an experienced person. He would propose remedies for the problems at university, and he'd be ignored. So I think even the vice chancellors, if they were to speak, be allowed to speak frankly, up to the last vice chancellor, Professor Carrington, a Trinidadian, I think I don't want to speak for him, but he must have left in frustration because things that he expected to be put in place, I can't say things that he was promised, things that he expected to be put in place were never put in place by the government of Guyana.
Right. I'm going to come back to APNU's role a bit later, but to ask the question that maybe going back to some things that you would have said before. In 2011, sir, you wrote, and not only in 2011, you wrote articles on the University of Guyana before. You wrote basically asking, you know, if UG's 50th anniversary will be a celebration of achievement as a center of academic excellence, or else. Do I dare say, or do I dare put to you that it is or else, instead of celebrating academic excellence? What is really the 50th anniversary of the University of Guyana?
This anniversary is a very sobering moment for the campus. I was present as one of the earliest events to mark this commemorative year. That is, a couple of months ago, there was actually an event to commemorate the signing of the ordinance. It was, in those days, it was called an ordinance because we were not yet independent. After independence, it became acts, the actions of the Legislative Assembly or the National Assembly. And it was a very sobering moment, and I don't want to embarrass anyone, but certain persons who spoke actually cried. There was eye water running because of the just frustration and disappointment. In this 50th anniversary year, these are two senior persons from the university, and they were, as they say in Guyana, you know, they cry eye water. And it wasn't; these weren't tears of joy; they were tears of frustration. That persons who expected to be working at a normal institution were really forced to endure almost humiliating conditions. It could be very, very hard at that place, you know, and the library, the lavatories, the laboratories, you know, the ambience in that campus, you know, the level of staff training, the level of staffing. At the university, most lecturers should have a second degree, a master's degree, or even a doctorate. Sometimes people who've just graduated, who are not qualified to teach, have been recruited as lecturers. This is most undesirable. It wouldn't happen in a decent university. And that helps to lower the standard of instruction, of tuition. So there are serious problems.
A few months ago, University of Guyana made the news once again when the issue of increased fees came up. I don't know if, sir, you're in a position to comment. Your thoughts on, at this point in time, increasing the fees for the University of Guyana?
Well, it's an act of desperation. Our Constitution guarantees free education, and it's my personal belief that education is one of the most important elements in society for bringing about equality and national unity. And that is why the People's National Congress government in 1976 introduced what they call free education from nursery to university. Of course, many people benefited from it, and having benefited, they turned around and said, oh, it's a bad policy. Because the fact is, we did not have enough funds to maintain the university at a certain level. So the use of fees, students' fees in particular, should be to provide the resources to enable the university to sustain itself from year to year. You cannot really argue with that policy because you do need funds. The university needs money, millions of dollars. I reckon that to run the university properly in Guyana, you probably need about $5 billion a year. I think it's getting about 1.7. But could the students in Guyana afford to pay those fees? And could the university use those fees in a way that would contribute meaningfully to development of the country? I think we have to bear those consequences in mind. I would not say now that the imposition of higher fees is desirable. People are paying fees now. The fees are not economical. For example, when the fee-paying system was introduced, the University of Guyana, it was, I think the level that was sought was $1,000 US. At that time, it was 127 Guyana dollars to US dollar. Now it's 200, or maybe 202. So in accordance with that idea, the fee should have been at least for about $200,000 a year. Some departments, for example, medical and I think law, you have higher rates of fees because of different circumstances. But the question is, can Guyanese students afford to pay $200,000 or $300,000 a year? Most universities in the Western Hemisphere are fee-paying universities. So I think the policy decision will have to be made as to whether we have fee-paying students or whether the present rate of fees, remains at the present level, or is going to be raised to maybe 200 or more. I don't think many students can afford. I remember when I was in campus and fees were, not fees were raised, but there were changes in wider society. Students dropped out because they couldn't afford to stay. I think that we should continue to aim at the constitutional provision of providing free education for all Guyanese. I think we should aim at that. A formula has to be found, a way has to be found to fund the University of Guyana. And let us start the debate from there. What is desirable and what exists in practice. Let us debate it from there.
So it would be fair to say under a David Granger administration, we can see that kind of policy that you're proposing existing.
I would, under a David Granger administration, would aim at providing free education.
All right. Well, I must ask this now because I can recall in 2011, that was leading up to the general elections. We saw a presidential debate being held at the University of Guyana. And of course, David Granger made several promises. We know that David Granger and the Partnership for National Unity did not win those elections. But I must ask you this, sir. Do you believe that APNU has somehow or in any way disappointed the students of the University of Guyana, those present and past?
We have not disappointed them. But to start with, as you point out, we didn't win the elections, so we couldn't implement the promises we made. For example, I said, and I repeat, that I believe teachers at all levels, university, right down to nursery, should be the best paid public servants in this country. The best paid public servants in this country. It is something that I repeat, that I see teachers being paid above the level of other branches of the public service. Maybe some of my colleagues in the other branches of the public service don't like me to do, but I think at this point in time, it is the most important branch of the service. We did not disappoint because we're not in government, but we did follow up. I personally met with representatives of those three organizations on campus, the Student Society, the Senior Staff Association, and the Workers' Union. They did produce a dossier which was sent to the President of this country. They did produce a petition which Dr. Ryan has advanced, and we advanced in the National Assembly, and we continue to fight for them. We just don't have the financial control. We cannot go to the government. If the government allocates $1 billion Guyana dollars for the university, we can make it 2 or 3 or 4. But we certainly have never touched the allocation. We have never cut anything for the university, and we continue to fight for the university. So we haven't disappointed. We've done all we could.
Do you believe that anytime soon the University of Guyana can or could get this $5 billion from government?
I don't think the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration is inclined to give the University of Guyana $1 more than is given. I don't see the will, I don't see the interest, I don't think they have the vision of this education nation. The education nation is a creature of a Partnership for National Unity. We know the importance of education, and we will put our money where our mouth is when we get into office.
This may be stretching it a bit and asking you to look into a crystal ball here, but the University of Guyana is the only major tertiary institution in Guyana. If not give the money to the University of Guyana, do you see somehow, probably they're thinking about another tertiary institution? Is that even possible for Guyana this time?
Well, I don't know if it's possible or desirable. There's a campus at Atene, which caters for the East Berbice Quarantine region. It is a boon to persons who had to travel. I met students of the University of Guyana at Wismar and other places around the country. They can't afford to travel to the university to attend classes. But in this day and age, we need to look at other forms of delivering tertiary education, and of course, the use of the internet. It should be possible. I know people in Guyana who study for their doctorates or masters resident here, and the universities are located in United Kingdom or United States. And there's no reason why people living at Wismar, Kwani, or Mabaruma should not be able to study at the University of Guyana using the internet. Maybe once every semester they can come down for tests or symposia or something. But I think that we need to examine more flexible means of delivering education in order to avoid the high cost of setting up new campuses. The days of those campuses with rolling lawns and huge buildings and fountains, maybe they look good on postcards, but I think those days have passed. Now you need more screens, and people need to be able to do the research, to get the experience of the lecturers, and be able to access data, in libraries and archives and so on. It's a different type of university. What we do need, particularly for the science-based subjects, good laboratories. We need good libraries too. And right now, I think if I were to be asked, I think those are the weakest aspects of the University of Guyana. The library is poor, the laboratories are poor, even the lavatories are poor, and the staff is badly underpaid. And we need to pay attention to those.
Thank you, sir. In the final moments of this program, I must ask you, because I know you continue to speak out about, not only speak out, but you're doing work towards eradicating trafficking in persons in Guyana. I must ask you this because recently, Guyana's very own Ms. Simona Brooms, she was recognized by the U.S. for her work regarding trafficking in persons. And as a person who will continue to champion the cause to try to eradicate that, to get that out of our system, I'd just like to give you the opportunity to, give your best wishes to Ms. Brooms on her recent achievement.
Well, thank you, Malaika. There's no doubt that Ms. Brooms has been able to lift the veil on trafficking in persons. And I admit that I brought a motion in the wake of action that Ms. Brooms had initiated. And the motion was passed by the National Assembly. There is a resolution of the National Assembly calling for a commission of inquiry into trafficking in persons. And her work is not a flash in the pan. She's been working for a long time. I do believe that the Cuyuni-Mazruni region, Region 7, is the area of most intense trafficking in persons, and that's the area that she's from, and that's the area that she's conducted her work. And she has confirmed what I have been saying all along, what other people, what the United States has been saying, there is trafficking. It is the PPP government which has been trying to pretend that there's not a problem. Oh, people have made lifestyle choices, they decided to go into prostitution. What kind of 14-year-old girl make a lifestyle choice to go into prostitution? It's trafficking. And I think the work that Ms. Brooms did has to be appreciated by all, and I certainly would like to join the rest of the nation in congratulating her on being appointed as a sort of a hero of trafficking in person, of anti-trafficking in person. Well done, Simona.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Granger. This has been another edition of The Public Interest. Thanks for watching. I am Malaika Ramsey. Goodbye.